The original Ant-Man suit. Hank Pym built the first Ant-Man suit in 1984 after discovering the Pym particles. Working for SHIELD during the Cold War, Pym created fully functional technology that allowed him to shrink to insect size while increasing his density and strength proportionally. The suit's most critical component was the regulator system built into the chest piece and helmet. This controlled the flow of Pym particles through the body. Without precise regulation, a user could shrink uncontrollably or get stuck at microscopic scale permanently. The helmet served a dual purpose. Beyond protection, it contained circuitry that let Pym communicate with ants through electromagnetic waves, turning insect colonies into tactical assets. Different ant species responded to different frequencies: carpenter ants for heavy lifting, fire ants for combat, flying ants for transportation. The helmet transmitted signals that ants interpreted as commands from their own colony, making them cooperative rather than controlled. Pym used this suit on covert missions throughout the 1980s, often alongside his wife Janet Van Dyne, who wore her own Wasp suit. But in 1987, during a mission to stop a Soviet missile headed for the United States, Janet's regulator was damaged. She disabled her suit's safety measures and shrank to subatomic size to penetrate the missile's titanium shell. She succeeded, but vanished into the quantum realm and never returned. After losing Janet, Hank locked the technology away and eventually resigned from SHIELD. When he discovered they were trying to replicate his particles behind his back, he spent the next 3 decades as a recluse, refusing to let anyone else wear the suit, Scott Lang's Ant-Man suit. Decades later, when Scott Lang broke into Hank's house and stole what he thought was a motorcycle suit, he discovered the same technology Pym had worn years earlier. The suit had been preserved but updated with modern materials. What Scott didn't realize during that first chaotic shrinking experience was that Hank had been watching him, testing whether he was worthy of becoming the new Ant-Man. Hank had also modified the regulator to prevent accidental quantum realm entry. Scott's version came with a steep learning curve. Shrinking disrupted balance and spatial awareness. Moving at ant size meant relearning how to walk, judge distances, and fight when a human fist could miss an ant-sized target entirely. But the suit gave him advantages beyond size. At reduced scale, Scott's mass remained roughly the same, concentrated into a smaller form. His punches carried full human force compressed into a tiny surface area, enough to shatter glass, dent metal, or knock out a full-grown man with a single hit. The suit's greatest limitation was power. The Pym particle regulator required massive energy to function, and the battery could only sustain shrinking for limited periods. Running out of particles mid-mission meant getting stuck at whatever size you happened to be, potentially fatal if you were ant-sized and surrounded by threats. When Scott went subatomic to stop Darren Cross, he entered the quantum realm, the same place Janet had vanished nearly 30 years earlier. The regulator wasn't designed to bring someone back from that deep. Scott only escaped by using an enlarging Pym particle disk to rewire the suit's regulator from inside the quantum realm. GiantMan. GiantMan represented the opposite end of Pym particle applications, where shrinking concentrated mass into a smaller form. Growing spread that same mass across a larger frame while somehow adding structural integrity that physics couldn't quite explain. The suit's regulator had to work in reverse, flooding Scott's body with particles that expanded his molecular structure instead of compressing it. This was far more dangerous than shrinking. Every inch of growth put exponential strain on the cardiovascular system, skeletal structure, and neural pathways. Bill Foster, Hank's former SHIELD colleague, had experimented with growth technology years earlier under a project called Goliath. His personal record was 21 feet. During the airport battle in Germany, Scott tripled that, growing to 65 feet tall and becoming GiantMan for the first time. At that scale, his punches could knock a fully armored war machine out of the sky. His footsteps shook the ground. But maintaining that size drained the suit's power reserves in minutes, and the physical toll was devastating. Scott passed out immediately after shrinking back down, asking for orange slices before collapsing. That single transformation left him asleep for 3 days. The Wasp suit. The Wasp suit took everything Hank had learned from decades of Ant-Man technology and refined it into something more capable. Janet Van Dyne had worn the original Wasp suit in the 1980s, which included functional wings and blasters, technology Hank never incorporated into his own armor. When Hope Van Dyne convinced her father to let her become the new Wasp, Hank built her a suit that surpassed both his original design and Scott's current armor. Hope's suit featured retractable wings that allowed for true flight rather than gliding or riding ants. The wings weren't decorative. They folded into the back plating when not in use and deployed instantly when needed. The suit also included integrated blasters in the gauntlets, energy weapons that could stun or kill depending on the setting. These weren't aftermarket additions, they were built into the core design. The Wasp suit's real advantage was precision. Where Scott often stumbled through size changes and relied on brute force, Hope moved with calculated efficiency. Her regulator allowed faster transitions between sizes, and she could shrink and grow mid-combat without losing momentum. During the mission to rescue Janet from the quantum realm, Hope proved the suit's capabilities by taking down an entire building full of armed criminals without taking a single hit. She moved between sizes so quickly that opponents couldn't track her, appearing full size to deliver a kick, shrinking to avoid gunfire, then growing again to disarm the next threat, the quantum suits. After Janet returned from the quantum realm with quantum energy embedded in her cells, Hank realized they could harness that same energy for controlled quantum realm exploration. The quantum suits weren't designed for combat. They were designed for survival in a place where normal rules of reality didn't apply. These suits featured enhanced shielding against quantum instability, navigation systems that could track position in a realm without fixed coordinates, and a tether system that could pull the wearer back to the regular world if something went wrong. When Scott accidentally got trapped in the quantum realm for what felt like 5 hours but turned out to be 5 years, the quantum suit kept him alive in a place that should have killed him instantly. Time moved differently down there. Space folded in on itself. The suit's systems compensated for all of it, maintaining a bubble of stability around Scott even as reality shifted. That experience gave the Avengers the key to time travel. Scott's quantum suit had recorded everything, every fluctuation, every temporal anomaly. That data became the foundation for the time heist, the desperate plan to undo Thanos' snap. Without Pym particles, without the quantum realm, without the suits that made exploring it possible, there would have been no second chance. The Yellowjacket Suit. Darren Cross took Pym's technology and turned it into a weapon. The Yellowjacket Suit was everything the Ant-Man suit could do, stripped of safety features and ethics. Cross had reverse-engineered Pym particles without fully understanding what he was creating. His suit could shrink. It had weapons built into every surface, and it was designed specifically for assassination. The suit featured integrated laser cannons mounted on articulated arms extending from the back. Offensive firepower the Ant-Man suit never included because Hank prioritized stealth. But Cross never mastered the mental discipline required to use Pym particles safely. The technology was destabilizing his mind even as he perfected the suit. Long-term exposure to improperly regulated Pym particles affected brain chemistry, which explained Cross's increasingly erratic behavior throughout his development process. During the final confrontation at Pym Technologies, Cross demonstrated exactly how deadly a weaponized shrinking suit could be in the wrong hands, until Scott went subatomic, passed through the Yellowjacket's atomic structure, and destroyed the suit's regulator from inside. Cross spiraled into the quantum realm, where his own suit's failsafes couldn't save him. If you're still watching, drop a comment and let us know which suit is your favorite. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this one.